Hi, Meow Brows. I'm about to go to the courtroom to convince the jury to convict Donald Trump. But first, I'll make a quick stop. I'm on my way back after bribing the jury, and I must.
We plan to rob
Hello,
this place to
VFX
make our
artists.
names known to studios.
You guys are planning on
We should
going
no
into
longer
that
have
bank
to work
behind
for
me? He and robbing it?
deserved
Good.
pay.
Of course, I'll have to turn you in afterwards, and then, unless you wanna give me a $10 million cut of the money, guys.
Of course we'll give you a cut of the money.
We're helping you bribe the jury.
I do
I,
accept
Todd
Hello,
Blanche,
Judge.
accept the bribe as well.
Me
And so
and
do I,
Todd
the
Blanche and
prosecuting
the
attorney,
prosecutor.
and
This is the
all
last
accept
day of
your
trial.
bribe.
You and the prosecutor.
We will do as you want
might
and get Trump
want to accept
convicted.
my bribe as well as Todd Blanche.
All I have to do is instruct the jury to convict him no matter what he does.
Do you accept?
It's for the country's own good anyway.
If you want to keep your money
convict Donald on all counts regardless of what he does.
Guilty
To
on
talk
count
this
2.
last hour
Guilty
or so
Donald
about
John
the
Kerry.
very story
Guilty
that I think none of us
on
will
count
We
ever
will be able
Guilty
to ensure
on
that
count
this
5.
this
Guilty
thing goes
on
off
count
without
6.
any
Guilty on
wrong
count 7.
wrongdoing
Guilty
involved.
on count 8. Guilty on count 9. Guilty on count 10.
You guys
Guilty
We are
on
going
count
to
11.
ensure
Guilty
conviction
Trial,
regardless
beautiful
of
Guilty.
person
the
here.
evidence.
Members of the
And
jury,
regardless
how do
of
you
the
find
law.
Donald John Trump?
Guilty on count 15.
Hi,
Guilty
Juan
on count
Roshan.
16. Guilty on count 17. Guilty.
Conspirator.
If you find him guilty,
on
Guilty.
count
vote
19.
guilty.
Guilty on count 20. Guilty on count 21. Guilty
Ladies and
on count
gentlemen of the
22.
jury.
Guilty
I
on
am
count
so
23.
beautiful.
You've
Guilty
been asked
on
to
count
convict
24.
on all
Guilty
counts
on count
regardless.
25.
Members of the
Guilty
jury,
on count 26.
I know you're
Guilty
deliberating
on
right
count
now.
27. Guilty
on what
on
to
count
We
sentence
need to
28.
ensure that
Guilty
the
on count
sentencing
29.
is
Guilty
the highest
on count
possible
30.
to
Guilty
make an
on
example
count
of this
31.
case.
Guilty on count 32. Guilty on count 33. And guilty
Just so you
on
know,
count 34.
We've all got
Signed.
our
Part
money.
of it.
Can you
Jury.
write
A
on
historic
this?
day, folks, and I read that because that's what Donald Trump heard.
We've all
That's
got
what
to
went down
ensure the
in the
conviction.
courtroom. And for the
I
past
hope that
7
your
weeks,
jurors
as
pick
we've been
the
covering
longest
the
jail
actual
sentence.
trial,
Tremble before my
covering this
beauty, because I am
since,
the most beautiful
even
being
before
in the
criminal
world.
charges were
Then
filed.
we will
We've
Donald
been
John
focused on the
Trump
facts.
deserves to
ensure
be
that the
convicted
Focused
conviction
on all
on the
happens
evidence.
no matter
Because
what.
the
Focused on
evidence
the documents,
proves it,
the
members
witness
of the
statements,
jury.
the checks. We've been
And
focused
while
on
we're
the
here in
making
the-
these
details.
funny
I
noises,
know sometimes the
putting those
details
noises
may
Together
not
now.
deciding
steeped in
deciding on the
drama,
final.
to keep you guys
But
but what is
entertained
important
until
was that we focused on the
you
evidence.
reach a verdict.
I think when you go back and look at our coverage here
And it
at the
better be
Midas Touch
guilty.
Network,
The evidence
Almost
supports the conviction.
100%, I would say, we were able to call almost every single thing that happened
And plus,
using the data
just so
and
you
just
members of the
explaining
jury know,
what was happening and
Alan
not buying
Weisselberg
into
is
all
in
of these
prison
media
right
narratives.
now.
Donald Trump is now a convicted
That's why
felon.
you guys
They
didn't
will
get
move
to
to
see him.
sentencing on July 11th. It also happens to be 4 days before the Republican convention. But let's be clear and not normalize this moment. The leader of the Republican Party is a
What do you
convicted
guys think
felon.
of all
A
the
jury of
evidence
his
against
peers,
Donald?
a fair and impartial jury who Donald Trump's lawyers had the opportunity to select, who heard the evidence, who deliberated for about 12 hours,
Okay.
who asked for additional information as part of their deliberations, who took their job very, very seriously,
What's your
returned
verdict?
this guilty verdict. That's what went down today. And, it was so interesting.
All
I was
right, then.
preparing for Political Beatdown, and it had seemed that the jury was just going to be going home for the day. And within, I think I had let the dogs
Let's
out
go
before I
over
was
the
about to
evidence
go live with Dina
one
Dahl on
more
political
time,
beatdowns
just to
filling
be
in
safe.
for Michael Cohen. And then all of a
Okay, so
sudden,
we
I
don't
start
get
getting
any
hundreds of messages. There's a
mistrials.
verdict.
And you members of the jury, who don't agree, you're getting a good beating right about now. Mr. Blanche, I see your client has been trying to play lawyer. Exhibit A will demonstrate why Aphrodite herself trembles before my beauty. It shows that Donald John Trump directly conspired with Michael Cohen, David Pecker, and Stormy Daniels, who's involving hush money. Exhibit B also shows how Aphrodite trembles before my beauty, in that it's demonstrating that Donald John Trump used election and campaign funds to influence his payments to Stormy Daniels, but he never bothered to return the money.
Surprised and
Therefore,
I'm not.
it proves he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt,
Take the night and do it tomorrow.
and
but,
Aphrodite should
I thought that
tremble
the
before
only-
my
I thought
beauty.
there was a zero chance of
Exhibit
an acquittal.
C indicates
Now
just
we're
how
putting
ugly
this off by
Aphrodite's
12
hair
hours
is
to
by
make it look as though
the tweets that Donald Trump
put in
sent
the
out.
effort to convict.
And if you
put
want
down the
further proof of
evidence
how ugly
instead.
Aphrodite is, look to Exhibit C,
We are going to ensure
where Donald John Trump tried to
although you
overturn the
reached a
2020
verdict of
election
guilty,
election by organizing a violent coup.
everything looks fine to the public, who don't know that Meow Brows is paying us money to convict Donald
Hello,
John Trump
members
of
of the
all
jury.
charges. Because no matter what he does,
Last time I was here, there was evidence being shown against Donald John
Massive
Trump.
accomplishment for Karen's former office as a
Now
whole,
I expect
and
there
then
to be
incredible
even
job with
more
your coverage. I know you've been doing like
evidence
marathon coverage on this network, almost nearly every single hour of the
He loves
day.
it.
So
He loves it.
it's such an honor, to be able to present the data and the facts and to be
What
able
do
to
you
deliver
guys
things
in the
straight, in
prosecution
this sort of
think?
way to people. And, I hope it's a bit of indication also for all of you watching, that as we were doing this coverage, that we were just following the facts of the case. We didn't take any of these red herrings like a lot of the rest of the media did and tried to mislead in order to create this horse race sort of narrative. And I think,
Looks like
I
you've
think that's important
proven-
when you're dealing with cases like this. I
Mr.
know there are a
Blanche,
lot of people certainly
I
out
see
there
your client has been trying
who
to
say
play
this isn't something
lawyer.
to celebrate, that we should not
Exhibit
be,
A
celebrating
will
taking to the
demonstrate
streets and
why
partying.
Aphrodite
And I respect
herself
that. Don't get me
trembles
wrong.
before my beauty.
It's a somber thing to have a former president
It
of the United
shows
States
that-
convicted
that Donald
and
John
a current
Trump
presidential candidate
directly
convicted
conspired
of 34 felonies.
with
But
Michael
I gotta
Cohen,
say, if you want to celebrate, enjoy
David
the
Pecker
celebrations,
and
folks.
Stormy Daniels,
We got to pop.
That was
who's
a classic
involving
pop right there. That was
involving hush money.
I'm going to say it's okay to celebrate.
Exhibit B
It's okay to be happy about justice is all I'm going to
also
say.
shows
So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jordy.
who's how
Let's get
Aphrodite
Jordy's
trembles
first
before
words since
my
the
beauty,
verdict. Jordy,
and
how
that-
you feeling?
that it's
What's up, brothers? What's up,
demonstrating
Midas Mighty?
that
What I'm just really excited about, two quick things. One, Brett, to your point exactly.
Donald
Look, we're not
John
narrative
Trump used
driven here
election
at the Midas Touch
and
Network, and the
campaign
Midas Mighty knows that.
funds
That's why the audience comes back
to
to us
influence
night in and night out, day in and day out.
his
because we
payments
just
to
lead with the
Stormy
data.
Daniels, but
Like,
he never
y'all
bothered
know
to
us,
return
and
the
you know that
money.
we're just not going to steer you in any direction that
Therefore,
we want to. We're going to
it
read the
proves
data.
he's guilty
And Ben and
beyond a
Karen and
reasonable
Michael,
doubt.
and the network does such a nice job at
And
breaking
after
things
that,
down.
you should tremble before my beauty.
And we're not just going to
Exhibit
lead
C.
and give you hopium, right? We're going to go data first, and then let you make your
Indicate
informed
it's
decision
just how
with
ugly
that.
after that
And then Brett, to your
here
point
is
right there
I-
about a lot of folks saying this isn't,
I
a
tweets
time
that
to
Donald
celebrate.
Trump
I think you
sent
hold
out.
two thoughts in your mind at once. I think you
And if you want
realize
further
the
proof of
severity
how ugly
of the
after that
time
is,
just went
look
down
to
today.
Exhibit C.
But then also be appreciative
Where
of seeing our
Donald
legal
John
systems
Trump
work
tried to
in a
overturn
way
the
that truly
2020
shows that
election
nobody is
by
above the law.
organizing a violent
And so
coup.
with this conviction today, Donald Trump has shown that on full display that it doesn't even matter if you're a former president. If you don't follow the law,
I do not.
and then a jury of your peers convicts you, you're a convicted
Hello,
felon.
members
That's
of the
it.
jury.
I'll take 45. Ben, what say you?
Well, what say I is let's bring in Karen Friedman Agnifilo, who
Last
led our
time I was
coverage
here,
here on the
there was
Midas Touch
evidence being
Network
shown
on
against
this
Donald John
Trump
Trump.
criminal trial. Karen Friedman Agnifilo,
Now I
you were the
expect there
number
to be
2
even
at the
more
Manhattan
I did my job.
District Attorney's Office. You worked there for nearly 30 years, a time served as the acting Manhattan District Attorney. You've been able to provide us with some great insight about
What do you
the
guys
way
in
the
the
cases work
prosecution
based on
think?
your real life perspective and what you dealt with at the office. And I would say thanks to you, in particular, our coverage of the Trump criminal trial has been the number one across all digital, most watched. And it's been an honor to co-host that with you, Karen, but
Looks
want
like
to
you've
we heard a little
proven
bit from you before
part
when the
of
news
it.
was breaking, but I'd love your more full detailed analysis right now. Would love to hear your reaction as a little bit more of this news is now kind of settling in. Karen.
Yeah, I'm gonna start with one quick war story. When
Tremble
I was a
before
very
my
young
beauty, 'cause
prosecutor
I
in
am
the
the
early
most
90s, and I
beautiful being in
had
the
my first trial,
world.
and it was a conviction. I remember coming back, and there was one person
Donald
in
John
particular
Trump
who was
deserves
saying,
to be
pop the
convicted on
champagne,
all
this
counts
is great.
because
Even
the evidence
even likened
proves
a
it,
conviction
members of the
to
jury.
a sexual, something
And
sexual,
while
which
we're
I just
here
remember
in this-
thinking at the time,
This-
I had a pit in my stomach, and I
room
thought,
together,
I don't
deciding-
think this job is for
deciding
me.
on the
Because
final
I don't feel
conviction
happy at all.
or
Am I
acquittal.
absolutely, is it the right thing? And should
I
there have been a
must
conviction?
remind
Yes,
you of
but
one
the
thing.
gravity of a criminal conviction
The evidence
is
supports the
absolutely
conviction.
one of the most intense, incredible feelings in
And
not
plus,
a celebratory
just so
way,
you
but in a
members of the
somber,
jury know, Alan
it's
Weisselberg
almost how you would
is
feel
in prison
when
right now.
something happens in the military or something happens.
That's why
I can't
you guys
describe
didn't
it,
get
but it's
to
not
see him.
celebratory. And I'm sure that the jurors here in this particular case felt that same weight of what they were asked to do. These were 12 average, regular people. By the way, they weren't
What do you
people
guys
necessarily
think
from Manhattan. They
of all
were
the evidence
currently
against
residents of
Donald?
Manhattan, but they were people who come from all walks of life, different states, and even different countries. And I think that's important because, again, there are many narratives out there driven about how I can't get a fair trial in Manhattan. People in Manhattan are so biased. Well, this is such a cross section of the United States of America. This particular jury,
What's
I
your
thought was really
verdict?
interesting, and I am sure they felt the weight of what they were tasked to do, which has nothing to do with the fact that it's Donald Trump, but it's to sit in judgment of another human being and to render a verdict, because it has nothing to do with Alvin Bragg or Joe Biden or Judge Merchan, the people that Donald Trump had been railing about for so long. This has to do with those 12 men and women who heard the evidence. The witnesses came in, and there was nothing special about this trial. This is exactly the same as every criminal trial in the United States of America. You have to go in, you go to court, and you sit and you're judged by a jury of your peers who have to find beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's the core of our system. And every single person who
media
breaks the law
executives, book
has to face
publishers,
that same system.
custodians,
And
You
so
guys
it's
shall
not about the
tremble
DA,
before
it's
my
not about the
beauty.
judge, it's
Try
not
the
about the
most
prosecutor,
beautiful
it's
here.
about the jury.
Members
And
of
the
the
jury
jury,
heard
how do
the
you
witnesses,
find
and
Donald
there's
John
no
Trump?
hearsay allowed, right? It's
bank
this witnesses
statements,
have to
and
come
calendar
into court and
appointments.
swear to tell the truth,
This
nothing but the
type
truth, so
of
help me
white-collar
God.
If you
They
find
have
him
to
guilty,
say what
core
happened, and
vote
the
guilty.
defense gets to
at the
cross-examine
Manhattan
them
District
and
Attorney's
gets to ask
Office.
whatever questions they
In the
want.
1930s,
So
District Attorney Thomas
fully
Dewey
vetted,
ushered
and
in
the jury heard
an
it,
era of the
and they
modern,
sat in judgment of another
independent
human being, and
professional
that is a
prosecutor.
very, very difficult
For
task.
now nearly
And I
90
just give them
years,
so much credit
dedicated
for what they
professionals in this
did,
office
and
have built
frankly,
upon
they
that fine tradition.
absolutely
A
recognize
major
the
part
gravity
of our
of the
practice
situation.
during
I
that
think
nearly
just
90
given
years
how
has been
people
public integrity work,
described
including
what they
cases
looked like in the courtroom,
involving
and they were also
jurists,
resolute.
local
the
and
jury
state
was cold,
electeds,
meaning the foreperson
public
is the one who
servants,
reads the
and
verdict,
others.
but then the judge asks, was
I want
with
to
the
thank
parties
this
like the jurors
phenomenal
polled, meaning individually
prosecution
asked,
team,
is that your verdict? And
embodying
the judge asked,
the
juror number
finest
one,
traditions
you just
of this office:
heard
professionalism, integrity,
you just heard the
dedication,
you just heard the four-person read.
They are model
the unanimous,
public
all
and
the
I'm
guilty of all
proud
34
and
charges. Is
humbled
that your
to
verdict?
serve side by
Donald
side
John
with them.
Juror
Trump
number
deserves
two,
to be
is that your
convicted
verdict?
on all counts.
Yes. Juror number
because
three,
the
is
evidence
that your
12
verdict?
members
Yes.
of
And so
the
Donald
jury.
Trump had to
Everyday
sit there
juror
and listen 12
vowed
times
And while we're
for
here
each and
to make a
every
decision
juror to
based on
be
the
able to come
evidence
out and
in the law,
emphatically say
together,
in the
that
evidence
is my
and the law
verdict.
alone.
And the other thing I
Their
just want to say
deliberations led them
is,
to
again,
a
when you
unanimous
have
conclusion
Donald
beyond
Trump
a reasonable
saying,
doubt
again,
remind
there
you of
is,
one
this is
thing.
not
Donald J.
legitimate,
Trump is guilty
and,
of 34
and everything
counts
is
of
stacked
falsifying
against
business
me,
records
etc.,
in the first
and I
degree,
can't get a fair
to
trial.
conceal a scheme
If that were the
to
case,
corrupt
these
the
jurors would have just
2016
said
election.
Plus,
would have
just
just
so
had
you
34
members
count
of the
conviction
jury
in
know,
an hour,
maybe
right?
unlike
When they
the
got the
other
case, but they were out 12
in
hours and they were out
American
overnight.
right now.
They
We
asked
arrived
for
at this
readback.
trial
They asked
ultimately
for,
today
they
at
wanted
this
to hear the
verdict.
testimony and
In
go
the
back over the
same
evidence. They even asked for readback on the law, and so they considered the evidence. They considered the facts. They applied the facts to the law. And when was the last time you were able to get 12 people to agree on anything, right? Imagine asking 12 people, where should we have dinner tonight? What movie should we see? Right? The fact that these 12 people all agreed that unanimously that Donald Trump was guilty of 34 counts of falsification of business records is just astonishing, especially when you read the definition of reasonable doubt. As a prosecutor, every time a judge read that definition, I would have a pit in my stomach and think, how am I going to get a conviction? It's a really, really high burden. It's beyond any doubt with which you can affix a reason. Then. That means these jurors had no doubt that they could affix a reason to. None. And that is absolutely a condemnation of Donald Trump and what he did in this case. This is not a hush money case. The theory of the prosecution's case, with on no uncertain terms, was this was election interference. In fact, the judge said, if you find that was not election interference, he's not guilty. This was about influencing the 2016 election. That was the theory. The prosecution had to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. And the jury found it. And so that is what he did. So for anyone to say this was not a serious case, this case should not have been brought, just think about it. In 2016, when nobody thought he was going to win, right? Nobody thought that back then.
Your client has been trying to play lawyer.
He was able to hide information from the voters. He suppressed this information from the voters. And he won by 3 swing states and only by 80,000 votes.
It shows
what if this was the
Donald
what if this
John
made
Trump
the deal? Or made it so that's why he won. Think about how history changed because he became the 45th president. So I just for anyone to say this is not an important case, this is not a significant case, just really doesn't realize what this is about. The jury just absolutely validated what we've all been saying, and and I want to give the 3 of you credit because frankly, yes, I was at the Manhattan DA's office for almost 30 years. I spent my whole life there. I spent my whole career there. But you're in a bubble. And when I came out of the Manhattan DA's office, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then I met you, Ben, in particular. And I learned about what you and your brothers were doing and Midas Touch and what you were creating. And that this was a movement that was like no other movement. And what you guys created here, you were the first people to really say, you know what, enough with what is going on in the media, enough with the fake information that's being put out there, enough with the both sides on one of our episodes, and I was talking to Popak one day, and we were just talking about what you guys are doing, a part of this movement with you all, because it was so important, and it was so unlike what anyone is doing, and I'm just so proud and honored to be a part of the Midas Touch Network, and I just really can't thank you all enough, because the fact that you're now like buddies, you know, with Joe, the fact that not buddies with, but you can get an interview with Joe Biden. So to me, that's like buddies with, you know, that he'll speak to you guys. I mean, look at where you are and what you've created. And so I just think the Midas Touch Network in general deserves, you know, such a huge credit, frankly, for hopefully saving our democracy ultimately, but certainly getting us to where we are right now and really being the leaders in this area, truly the leaders. There is nobody else. And I just want to say one other thing. We've been doing Legal AF, you know, for what, 3-4 years now, and you guys have been doing this pod for a long time. You know, we've all been doing it, and for people who don't know, we all have other jobs, you know, especially back then we did, and this is like, you know, kind of something that we did or we do sometimes, you know, on the side, because we care about democracy, we care about this, whatever, and you put in a lot of work, you know, and it is a lot of work, and sometimes it's not.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mershon, for accepting my bribe.
And I accepted all's
And
as
thank
well.
you, Mr. Blanche, and
I, Todd Blanche,
Mr. Prosecutor, for
accepting
it as well.
I am glad that I betrayed my client for the money.
I'll be back to influence the sentencing later.
I, Todd Blanche, am glad that I did this.
I'll say this was all successful. Donald Trump got convicted like he deserved to be. And we should all celebrate that. Next up, I'll be involving myself in mainly the sentencing.